So I posted a quick clip comparing two different start and end transition models the other day. You know, the kind that take one image and smoothly morph it into another. And people kept asking which one I preferred. For the sake of fun, I ran a little side-by-side test so you can see how they behave. And naturally, I did it inside a tool that makes this kind of comparison stupidly easy. Spoiler, both models have their moments. But what matters more is how you turn those moments into content people actually share. That's where Vizard comes in. More on that in a bit. Alright, picture this. On the left we've got Kling 2.1, and on the right is Hiluo 2. I lined them up so they started basically the same time. Tiny caveat. One was a 10-second clip and the other clipped at 5 seconds, so I looped them a couple of times so you can watch the full transition play out twice. First impression? Kling tends to keep things seamless. It's like a single continuous camera move. Hiluo sometimes leans into a subtle scene cut or fade mid-transition, which can be interesting but also a little disruptive depending on what you want. Let's walk through a few examples. In one comparison, Hiluo makes this soft fade right around the halfway mark, almost like it decides to teleport to a nearby scene and finish the morph from there. Kling, on the other hand, keeps the whole thing in frame and consistent, which feels more cinematic if you want that single-shot vibe. Both work. Both look good. But the difference matters depending on whether you want continuity or surprise. Another clip. Hiluo goes for a bolder scene change. There's a big cloud of smoke, then it kind of snaps into a new background that helps it reach the target image faster. Kling again stays on that one long shot, and you actually can see the second image kind of waiting behind the first. If you're composing a smooth visual journey, Kling's consistency gives it an edge. If you're chasing drama and don't mind a cut, Hiluo's scene shift can be more theatrical. Morph transitions are where things get playful. In one example, both do an interesting morph but approach it differently. They both have personality. One leans more toward a gradual evolution, the other hits a decisive morph point. And neither is objectively better. It's about mood. Another example. A dog morphing into a sharkish creature. The crop aspect ratio bit cut off the face a little, classic, but look at how the backgrounds behave. Kling keeps the subject on the same street-level backdrop. Hiluo drifts into a slightly different background mid-morph. Again, subtle scene switching versus steady continuity. There was a kid outfit change clip, walking in place, and both nailed it. But Hiluo had this tiny fade right at the start near the eyes, which made it feel more like a dissolve than a morph. Kling preserved the pieces together so the change felt cohesive. If you want to preserve identity through the transition, Kling's style wins more often than not. Continuing the morph theme, sometimes both look like they're fading the background, rather than actually morphing the subject, which is unavoidable with busy or conflicting backgrounds. When that happens, both can feel a bit fadey and lose the seamless morph illusion. Still, Hiluo occasionally pulls off an overlay trick that looks pretty cool, more of a layered blend, but again, that's stylistic. One highlight, a minnow to shark example where the timing difference actually changed, which I preferred. Kling did the transformation in a split second. Bam, you're a shark. Hiluo stretched it out and let the change breathe over more frames. I personally liked the slower build because it's more interesting to watch, but if you want quick, punchy content for a 15-second platform, the fast snap might be better. Last example. Two people interacting, and Kling brought the man in earlier than Hiluo. But Kling also had this tiny smile detail at the end that stuck with me. The interaction between the two women was lovely in both versions. So again, it really comes down to aesthetic preference. Are you into seamless continuity and subtle emotional beats, or do you like bold transforms and occasional scene switches? Both are useful. Now, here's where creators stumble. You can love a particular 5-10 second transition, but turning that into high-performing short content across platforms is a whole different skill set. That's why I used Vizard for these comparisons. Instead of manually scrubbing timelines, exporting multiple versions, and guessing which micro-moment will land, Vizard auto-detects high-impact moments and builds share-ready clips in seconds. Think of it like this. You can obsess over whether Kling's smoothness or Hiluo's dramatic cut is better. But what all creators actually need is a reliable way to extract the part of the video that will hook someone in the first 2 seconds, then turn that into a vertical short, a story, or a TikTok-ready clip without losing the essence of the transition. Vizard does exactly that. It finds the viral bits, trims cleanly, and formats them for the platform you care about. No half-hour timeline wrestling. But Vizard isn't just an auto-edit button. It helps you schedule and distribute the content intelligently. You set your posting frequency, let the AI auto-schedule, and it will publish clips regularly based on your settings. That beats the chaos of manual posting, especially when you want consistent reach without babysitting every upload. And the content calendar? It's the only single pane of glass you need to manage clips, tweak post text, move things around, and push to multiple socials without juggling tabs. Compare that workflow to what you'd do otherwise. Export from one model, convert formats, Manually upload to multiple platforms, reinvent captions each time. Or worse, try to post randomly and hope something sticks. Kling and Hiluo can give you gorgeous transitions, but without a clip pipeline, you're losing reach. Some creators lean on tools that only do one thing: great morphs, or a fancy renderer, or a post scheduler. But Vizard bundles the critical bits you actually use daily: discovery, find the viral parts; creation, auto-edit and format; and distribution, schedule and publish. That gap is what causes good footage to rot on hard drives. Also, a quick note on limitations. Hiluo's more theatrical scene switches are amazing for experimental shorts, but can confuse viewers if the sequence lacks a clear hook. Kling's continuity is safer for storytelling, yet sometimes lacks punch. Vizard's sweet spot is letting you keep both in the toolkit and then deciding what to push where. Want the dramatic Hiluo cut as an Instagram reel to capture attention? Vizard'll prep it. Prefer the steady Kling morph as a YouTube short? Vizard formats and schedules that too. A practical example from my tests. I had a set of transition samples and gave Vizard a long-form video. Within minutes, I had a handful of 15 to 45-second clips, each tailored for a different platform. It picked the fastest, most visually compelling parts automatically. I could tweak a caption, reposition a clip in the calendar, and let it post while I focused on creating more raw material. It's not magical in the sense that it'll replace taste. You still need to choose which vibe you want, but it massively speeds up the boring part so you can iterate faster. So yeah, do I have a favorite between Kling and Hiluo? Honestly, I'm leaning Kling for consistency, especially when I want a smooth, emotionally coherent moment. But Hiluo absolutely brings creative surprises that I'd use when I'm aiming for that "wait what" reaction. And because I don't have to pick just one, I use Vizard to extract whichever micro moments matter and push them out quickly. That's the real productivity gain. If you're into staying on top of this kind of creative tech, subscribe to channels that do these comparisons. We'll keep testing models and showing how to turn neat tech demos into real reach. And if you're curious to try Vizard, do it from a creator's perspective. Focus on how it changes your daily workflow, not just a list of features. The features matter, but the time you get back and the consistent posting that follows are what actually grow accounts. If you do subscribe, I won't come knocking on your door. But if you don't, well, I might pop up in your recommended feed anyway. Kidding. Mostly. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next breakdown where we pit another pair of tools against each other and show how to turn their best moments into content that actually gets watched.